Hey, welcome to episode 245 of Awkwardly Awesome Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Freeman, and I probably didn't need to point to me because I'm the only person on the screen, so you could have figured that out. Anyway, I'm excited to bring on our guest today. Oh my gosh, she's amazing. She's amazing, and we only have an hour. But I'll start you off with one of her quotes. One can become an optimist through challenge. I'll read that part again. One can become an optimist through challenge. But also there's the element of growing as an optimist by seeing others experiencing challenge. Through it, you can learn resilience and you can find hope. Seeing hope in the world is truly what makes us compassionate beings. Seeing hope in the world is truly what makes us compassionate beings. With that, I'm excited to tell you more about our guest, but first, this.
Today's guest, Lisa Groon.
Welcome back to Awkwardly Awesome Podcast. Let me tell you about Lisa Groon. Having two parents concurrently in cognitive decline will be challenging enough under the best of circumstances, but caring for them while also supporting and caring for three children and fostering a healthy family with the help of her husband, of course. Well, that takes quite a degree of resilience. I have to be resilient when saying the word resilience, I guess. Undoubtedly, the key to Lisa's resilience is her unwavering outlook on life. As she says, the more good you look for, the more good you find. Lisa Groon is a healthcare quality strategist and caregiver advocate with over 20 years of experience in patient-centered care. Inspired by her role caring for a mother with Alzheimer's, she reframes dignity as an act of compassion and presence that we can choose to give. Her dignity paradox framework challenges conventional approaches to Alzheimer's caregiving, empowering caregivers to preserve dignity through presence. She also brings these lessons to life through keynotes, workshops, in a TEDx talk, which I saw a few months ago, which was wonderful. She guides audiences to deepen connection and restore dignity in the human experience. Please help me welcome Lisa Groon to Awkwardly Awesome Podcast. Yay!
Hey there. Thanks so much for having me.
You're welcome, Lisa. I think in 245 podcasts, this is the first time I get to do this. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Lisa. Happy birthday to you.
I did it. Thank you.
Yay. So it's your birthday, which makes me think of your childhood. What is one of your favorite memories of stories or memories or stories you tell about your early life?
One of the things that I talk about at work sometimes is that I've sort of grown up in a clinic, in a clinical setting my whole life. My mom managed the medical clinic in Chamberlain, South Dakota.
In Chamberlain.
And in Chamberlain, go Cubs. And when I was young, I remember, we would pitch in, my sister and I, wherever we were needed. Well, not always willingly, but, we would help sometimes. And I remember cleaning exam rooms. The favorite task was shredding paper or those reels of paper that you have to pull the sides off. I can't remember what they're called. We used to spend a lot of time doing that, playing with the stamps. I put a lot of numbers on paper charts. And so I think I kind of grew up in a medical clinic, you might say, which also not only included those tasks, but also talking to the nurses and the lab techs and the front desk staff and having a better understanding of what care looks like and seeing patients come and go. And that was always a fun memory. And I still get joy out of shredding paper and putting stickers on charts. So always a fun memory when we were growing up.
Fun memory, which is, this is a great place to start. I hadn't anticipated this question, but so many people get nervous about having to go in for a physical or having to go in for something more major.
Mm.
Yet you've experienced this joy as a kid and being in a medical office. What would you say to people who get nervous about hospitals and medical offices to help them, to invite them to think about that experience at least a little bit differently?
Sure. I think there's a few different elements to it. So first of all, it's my view that when you look for good things, you find more good things. As you mentioned earlier, we talked before. That is true, and it is science-based. When you look for good things, you find more good things. And so when it comes to stressful things in our lives, like going to the doctor, like handling a medical condition or a new diagnosis, there's value in identifying, gosh, now I finally have answers, right? Or now I have a path forward. And so while experiencing something stressful like a new diagnosis or a challenging treatment regimen, having answers is sometimes a silver lining on that cloud. Also, sometimes, regardless of diagnosis or specific treatment regimens, going to the doctor can sometimes be just stressful in itself. It's kind of unknown to a lot of people, or there's past trauma or things that happened in someone's younger life that have impacted their way that they view medical facilities and medical professionals. Part of my job professionally, and I would say personally, is to help our care professionals really understand that anxiety exists and it's true and it's real. And how can we do our best to be good listeners, be good collaborators, and really help alleviate or belay any anxieties that come with their patients coming into the office. Additionally, I would say the same is true as lay caregivers, as family caregivers. When we are being a support person to someone going into the office, it is our role to be the optimist,
it is our role to be the optimist.
It is your role to be the optimist. When you are helping someone in that situation, you need to understand the communication style of the person you're supporting. You need to understand what might be coming next, maybe do a little homework. And I often say, when I tell the stories about my mom's condition, she had Alzheimer's disease. Her love language was gossip, and just
Her love language was
complaining.
gossip.
She loved to complain about stuff, and we really leaned into that during those first appointments. She'd be complaining about the nurse or something, even though the nurse was doing a fantastic job, no problems at all. And we'd kind of lean in with mom and say, yeah, I don't know what we're doing, or how annoying. And then we'd chat with the nurse on the side and say, hey, you're doing great. I'm so sorry about that. So I think there's both sides of the coin, both the patient and the care team really need to have a recognition of what might be coming next, communicating intent, and then discussing how we can collaborate to reach whatever that final destination of care is.
So many avenues. This is exciting. So I'm going to go here next. So when someone is experiencing memory issues, it can be tempting to, especially if we have a previous relationship with them, like the mom who we love. It can be tempting to try and correct, like say, oh, actually, mom, the nurse is doing a really very fine job.
Yeah.
What even though that's an instinct, why might that be counterproductive?
Sure. We like to say, as we talk about people who experience cognitive challenges, it is a more positive experience for everyone if you can step into their world. If you can join them where they are, it relieves anxiety on both sides. So when my mom would complain about the nurse, there's no good outcome that comes from me correcting her and explaining that the nurse is doing her best. The only good can come from stepping into her reality and saying, hey, yeah, this is frustrating. I don't want to diminish the feelings that she's feeling. I have the same experience. I'm the guardian for a good friend of mine, and he has autism. And so sometimes communicating with the world around him isn't the same experience for others. And so it's my role to step into his reality, which is, this is really overwhelming. This is really loud. I don't want to be here anymore. And so instead of saying, oh, it's okay, it's only going to be loud for a minute, or I know this is really overwhelming, but we gotta get through it. Instead, we can say, I know this is really loud. Do you want to step out for a minute? Or talking to the loudness and saying, hey, can we keep it down for a minute? This is really overwhelming for Randy. There's a lot of solutions, but really I think it comes down to stepping in someone's reality and connecting rather than correcting.
Connecting rather than correcting. I've been debating in my head whether to do this or not, but I know it's in your TED Talk, but the story is just too good to illustrate this point not to tell, at least in my opinion. Would you please tell about your mom? She was mending your favorite pair of pants.
Yeah, certainly. So the story is that when my mom was first diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, she was understandably very angry, frustrated, paranoid. And we were all still trying to feel out how that relationship should look, where I should step in, where I shouldn't. And I decided to use these first months and weeks of her new diagnosis to glean all of the knowledge that she had in her brain. And one of the things that my mom did really well was sew. She owned a little side business called Sue Sews. And Sue Sews, I know, it's adorable. She mended things, tailored things for people in her community. She fixed a lot of wedding dresses, that kind of thing. And she had this sewing room that she absolutely loved. It was filled with all of her favorite things, dress forms, and I remember she had these big pin cushions that were red and shaped like strawberries, and so we used to play with them all the time. And so she used to mend things all the time for people. I requested that she help teach me how to hem pants in her first weeks of Alzheimer's, hoping that I could finally listen and learn, considering that all of the many, many times before that she'd tried to teach me how to sew, I'd completely dismissed it and ignored her, as a teenager does. And so we got to her house, and I gave her my pants, and she starts folding them and measuring them and chalking them, as you do when you hem pants.
So far everything's going as it should.
Everything's fine. And, I put them on, and she measures them, and she pins them up. She's done this for me 1,000 times. And so then we get to the point where she needs to cut the pants, and she folds them up, and then she folds them up again, and she grabs the scissors. And I thought in my moment in my brain, I should stop her. This doesn't look quite right. And I didn't. And she cut the leg off my favorite dress pants. And I didn't say anything at first. And then she unfolded them, and of course they came off. And she looks at it, and she was like, well, that's not, well, what happened? And I didn't say anything. And then like a light bulb went off, and she realized that she'd cut the leg off. And she was immediately mortified. She'd been doing this her entire life. Since she was a teenager, she'd been sewing. And she realized the error that she'd made, and she tried to make a few excuses, saying, well, I don't think it was measured correctly, and something was wrong, and this got in the way. And then she just kind of collapsed. And it was really devastating to see how embarrassed she was, knowing that she knew she should know how to hem pants. And so I found her sitting in her favorite room, crying, embarrassed, angry at herself, angry at Alzheimer's. And
so in this moment, you have a huge choice of how to respond.
Yeah. I could have said, oh, Mom, why did you cut the leg off my pants? Mom, those were my favorite pants. I could have easily responded in that way. And I think, to be totally honest, I probably did initially say something like that. I was new to this as well. I didn't quite know how to respond in these situations. And man, I really loved those pants. And so I'm guessing I said something along the lines of, Mom, what happened? Probably something like that. And very quickly I realized that's not helpful. I'm not solving anything. What's done is done. And ultimately we ended up sitting on her sewing room floor, kind of laughing about the thing. And I was like, I guess these are my pants. I guess this is what I wear now to the meeting, and we just sort of laughed about it. We kind of joked about, how silly I'd look, like, with one short leg and one long leg. And we just laughed about it afterwards. And that was kind of the first time that I ever had the experience of what that unexpected sense of joy feels like in a very difficult and new situation. And I used that filter many, many times over the next several years through her journey with Alzheimer's.
How were you? I know you were on the floor laughing. Is there anything else you can say about what the unexpected sense of joy felt like?
Yeah. I think that was an important path that was drawn for me on this is how I want to be as a caregiver, knowing that this was going to be a long road, and this was just step one of that very long journey. And it's true that that moment of deciding how to respond came up hundreds more times, particularly since she lived through Alzheimer's also during COVID. And so it was even more challenging when it was hard to communicate with her, and I couldn't be right by her, and I couldn't help. So that was an important moment to realize these are my options. I can either step into this journey with her, or I can constantly try to drag her out of it. And I'll tell you, it's far more hurtful and complex to try to draw someone out of Alzheimer's, or really any experience or condition they're experiencing, than it is just to join them in it.
This brings up, how would you describe the? I didn't ask you this when we talked before. How would you describe what you call the dignity paradox?
The dignity paradox is something that popped into my head while I was thinking about this disconnect between our society saying that we care very much about dignity, we care very much about honoring someone's privacy, someone's ease, joy. We say those things, but then in practice, we don't see them in place. I give the example of being in the doctor's office with my mom, and a nurse documenting while being turned around, taking the notes from my mom's experience. Now, the nurse was perfectly kind and helpful, very knowledgeable, knew exactly what she was doing. It's the system that doesn't match. The computer's back there. The list of questions doesn't match what's important to my mom today. And so you end up having this disconnect in communication simply because of the operations of the system. And we see that all the time. I can think of situations where people who use wheelchairs to move around a community end up hitting curbs and gutters, and people who aren't able to see don't always have push buttons for crosswalks. Those are all examples of, we say that dignity is important, but our systems don't reflect it always. Sometimes they do a great job. But that's the dignity paradox, really, really not having systems that match the societal statement that we care very much about dignity.
So you work in a large healthcare system. With a system like that, there's just tons of layers of systems to work with, and to like create even better versions of, like, where do you start? There's so much.
Yep, you nailed it. It's large, and there are layers upon layers of barriers, bureaucracy, politics. But I have found that conversation starts with stories. And
the conversation starts with a story.
It really does, almost every time. And if you start a project without a story, you don't have a North Star. You don't have a path forward. You don't know what direction you're going. So
wait, you just said if you start a project without a story, you don't have a North Star.
Correct.
Please unpack that a little. I've never heard that.
Yeah. really the truth is we find that a lot of times solutions, whatever they are, on any project, any initiative, many times folks will jump straight to the solution. And there won't be kind of that person-centered approach to it. You won't have that human connection to how does this impact actual real live people. And so then your solution doesn't match how people actually use that system or that solution or that initiative. And so then you have to go back to the drawing board, or you keep finding holes in the solution that you've created or gaps in the solution. And so I've found it's most useful to pair stories with actual quantitative and qualitative data that help us inform that path forward. And I will add an additional critical element is having those voices at the table, making sure that you have the right people together to have a discussion about an initiative, a project, before you get going on it. Because otherwise you get to the end and you say, wow, we pat ourselves on the back. We have such a great plan. We've got a great project. We did it. And it doesn't end up matching the needs of the actual people using it. We see that oftentimes in upper leadership where, we found out there was a problem. So we said, oh, well, why don't we just, I hate that phrase, by the way, why don't we just, almost always indicates to me that that person doesn't understand the complexities of the issue. And so never do we start a project with, why don't we just? We always need to get the story first. We need to get the perspective first. And in quality improvement world, we use a phrase called go to the gemba, which means you go to the place, go to the gemba. You go to the place, you go to the physical place where the challenge is happening so you can see how it's impacting people before you come up with a solution. I find that that's critical.
So you told me just a brief vignette of a story of taking your mom to the doctor's office and the nurse having to turn away when they type the answers. So how will you apply your story concept with just that short vignette?
Yep. So in that story, that was really the moment that I saw my mom have her dignity taken away. It's my view that part of the dignity paradox is that we don't lose dignity as part of cognitive challenge or Alzheimer's. It's taken from us, from the people around us and the experiences around us. Mm. And in that appointment, my mom was asked the questions that every patient experiences. One of them was, what was your birthday? And in that moment, she couldn't recall her birthday. And she was so early in her disease that she knew she should know her birthday. Mm. And so she was immediately struck with this very strong sense of embarrassment. She was mortified that she just couldn't come up with the answer, and she had to turn to me to help her with that. I would argue if the experience was different, that my mom would have started her conversation with explaining what's important to her, who this person is with her, me, her helper, her advocate, the person communicating with her, that maybe that conversation would have gone a little bit differently. I can't help but wonder if the electronic medical record, that software that clinics use to inform about the patient that's with them, if that had something that indicated that Susan requires assistance with communication or with safety, that maybe my mom's experience would have looked a little bit differently. I can't help but wonder if there was a preview of my mom's needs and my mom's chart and my mom's diagnosis prior to her even arriving at the clinic, that maybe she would have had a different experience getting to the exam room, having a seat, answering questions. And she could have maintained dignity by having different systems in place that are meant to help maintain dignity through person-centered approaches.
In the birthday example, like it's not necessary for the office visit to be what it needs to be for your mom to recite her memory from birth. We say her birthday from memory. It's just not necessary.
Right. And there's solutions. We want to be sure that my mom is the patient that they think that they're seeing. We want to confirm identity. That is important. I wonder if there's a more human way to do that. Or knowing that she has Alzheimer's disease, maybe forcing her to answer questions about herself might ultimately be demeaning, especially as the disease progresses. And so starting the conversation with, I see you have someone here with you today. Who do you have here with you today? And then it gives my mom the opportunity to introduce, her daughter, someone she knows very well and is well connected with, and gives her a moment of feeling in control and in power, leading her own doctor's appointment.
So like this is just one dimension of your life. Your life is so bad. So you have three kids. What has it been like being a mother?
Oh, really like those guys. They're great. I have 3 sons. They range from 15 down to 5, and they are wonderful. My husband and I enjoy bike riding and going to their activities, and having movie night together. During this experience while caring for my mom, they were fantastic and resilient and supportive. They have learned so much as caregivers themselves. My youngest, my 5-year-old, was born right when my mom moved into memory care. And then the week after he was born, the doors shut for COVID. And so my 5-year-old really doesn't know grandma. However, because we were so intentional with, FaceTime conversations and visits, and we maintain photos and videos of her and talk about her all the time, he knows her story as well. And so that's an important aspect of mothering, I think. We talk regularly about people's choices in healthcare, people's goals of care, quality over quantity in healthcare. So my kids have a unique experience that I don't know that all children have, but we are grateful that they know their grandmother in unique ways.
So sometimes a lot happens at once. So COVID was going on. You gave birth to your son, to your third son, and your mom was entering memory care. How was that time? How do you manage all those very intense layers?
Yeah. Well, and I'll be honest, those are 2 of the layers. My husband and I were also in the military at the time, and so we're trying to do guard drills while taking care of 3 kids and taking care of 2 parents. And I was on the school board, and so also attending school board meetings and handling those things. So it was a lot of things. I don't want to say that I have the market cornered on busy. Everybody's got a lot going on. But, COVID was a unique time where we all had to learn new ways of doing things and really flex our resilience muscles. And I think that COVID was a unique time for us to also give ourselves a break. I don't know how many times I actually gave myself a break, but it was an important time for introspection and like how I want to spend this time with my mom instead of signing up for something or adding something to my plate. I remember one particular day, I went and sat with mom in the courtyard at her memory care facility. And we were sitting in the rocking chairs, and it was a beautiful day out. And she was kind of having a rough morning. She was pretty upset about a lot of things. She was in other people's rooms. And, I was trying to just give her some one-on-one attention. And I sat with her, and we held hands, and we both fell asleep in those rocking chairs.
Oh,
And I think, in the middle of COVID, we got to sit outside in the courtyard in the rocking chairs, taking naps when there were a million things going on around us, kids and meetings and work and all the things. I think there's a valuable lesson in that. I don't know that I always adhere to it, but I think of it pretty often. How can I make my life more like that moment? I don't know the answer yet, but I'm trying.
At least you have a direction and an intent to go more in that direction, huh?
Yeah.
Wow, what a moment. When you talk about the being in the military, you seem to light up. What has been your experience serving our country?
Yeah, I joined the military in 2000 as a junior in high school. I joined a very unique unit. I am a musician, and so I joined the 147th Army Band out of Mitchell, South Dakota. And it was the greatest decision of my life. Through it, I met my husband, and so we served in the military for 22 years together. And
Thanks for your service.
we are musicians, and so we got to travel around the state and the country and even the world performing and building camaraderie and really connecting to communities and showing community support and all of the fantastic things that the military can offer. I can't think of a better job that I could have possibly had in the military, singing and playing instruments for the military. It was fantastic.
So back up for a second. How did this opportunity that transformed your life come your way? Like you were growing up in Chamberlain. How did you know about this?
Yeah, so my dad served in the Air Guard for 27 years. And so every year in Pierre, there is what they call the military legislative dining out. And so it means that all the legislators and the military leaders come together for a meal. They have a ceremony and a dance, and it's kind of this whole big thing. It happens every year. And so when I was young, my dad used to always attend that event. And when I got a little older and I started playing in band, and he could tell that was something that was important to me, he and my mom started bringing my sister and I to that event. And we'd stay at the hotel and go swimming and do all the things. We'd go visit Noah the fish. And then in the evenings, the band would play, the 147th Army Band out of Mitchell, South Dakota. And I didn't know that there was any connection or what my dad was up to, trying to get me to come see this band. But it was always exciting seeing that there was a military band. I thought that military band was like from Washington, D.C. or something. And then when I got to high school, I remember my dad saying, "Hey, do you want to be in that band?" I'm like, "What do you mean be in that band?" And I learned very quickly that I, a normal human being who happens to have musical skills, can audition to be part of that band and then enlist in the South Dakota Army National Guard, just like you do for any other military job. And so I did. I was accepted, and then I went to basic training the next summer after I graduated. And that's the story. I ended up being in the 147th Army Band for 22 years. I was the lead singer in a couple different bands. The way that our unit is broken up is we have small bands. We have small musical ensembles. Some might call them bar bands, but we don't play in bars. We play for community events and in schools. And sang normal rock band songs in bands toured the state and the country. It was a fantastic experience for 20 years.
One follow-up question. Who is Noah the Fish?
Oh, goodness. So at the Ramkota in Pierre, South Dakota, there used to be a fish. I'm sure one of your listeners can explain what kind of fish this is, but I don't know anything about fish. There's a large fish tank in the front lobby of the Ramkota in Pierre, and it has this enormous, very old fish named Noah. And it was the highlight of every trip to Pierre. Even if we weren't staying at that hotel, we would stop by and visit Noah the fish. So that is an important part of my childhood. I'm sure that your listeners can expound on Noah the fish, but that's all the information I know about him.
The story to be continued.
Right. Sure. I'm sure someone else can help. You just ask the rest of your guests from now on if they know Noah the fish. Somebody will.
It'll be a stock question. Even if someone's from a different country, I'll ask.
That's right.
My alcoholism. Gosh, that's bad. This is awkward.
It matches. It's fine.
Okay. No, my alcoholism. So Lisa, you're a very busy person. You have a full-time job. You were in the air guard with the band. You had two kids at the time. How do you think? I know what I'm going to do. I'm also going to run for school board.
Oh, right. Sure. Yep. I initially ran for school board back in 2019, 19. And I did it because I always felt this pull to do something that showed my kids that their parents can do difficult things. So it was really about modeling to my children that if you have a voice and you have the ability to think critically and, organize your time, that you should do these things that are hard. And so I decided to run for the Harrisburg School Board and spent the last 6 wonderful years with my colleagues on that school board and our superintendent, Tim Graff, who just retired. And it was an absolute joy to spend the time with that team. We have done such a good job, I think, of working to each of our strengths. Each of us brings something different to that board, and we step up when there needs to be, a new perspective. We do a fantastic job of listening to one another and really understanding issues, but it wasn't always easy. We were a board together during COVID, and so that was new to everyone. We were all, navigating that path together. And I think really it comes down to making human decisions and supporting an approach that really makes sure that we're educating students in the best way that we can and being good stewards of the dollars that we have.
What most surprised you about running a political campaign?
Well, I'll tell you what. A lot of time is spent on the campaign bit for a lot of people. And what I've learned is that it's really less about the campaign and more about the work. And so having conversations about what the work actually looks like, what the issues really are, what people's concerns are, what their hopes are, is the most important part of the conversation. And it's not about the posters and the flyers and the t-shirts. though that's important to actually get a seat at the table, really the important parts are having a conversation and understanding the issues at hand. One of the most important lessons that I learned as a public servant is that those conversations about whatever the initiative is, whatever the bill is, whatever the policy is, those conversations are always happening. Nothing is ever just showing up on a vote one day. And so if folks want to stay engaged in the political process or in the public policy space, you need to keep your eye on what's happening all of the time, not just when the vote happens, not just when the final discussion happens, because the conversations have already happened. I find people will come and talk to the school board, or even me. I'll write my legislator after a vote has happened, or right before a vote is about to happen. And I've missed the conversation. I've missed all of the discussion about the details, the context of the bill. And so that was a really important lesson for me, that if I want to be involved in any sort of political process, I've got to keep my eye on things and join the conversation early on so I have full context, rather than showing up at the end when the vote happens.
How does one get an opportunity to join the conversation early on?
Well, luckily, we live in a democracy. And so all of these discussions are public meetings. They're publicly held discussions. There's always minutes and agendas. And your representatives, whether it's local, school board, city, state, federal, you have access to them. And so maintaining regular conversation with them about your questions, about your ideas, that is far more important and more well received than showing up angry at the end. And so I would advise folks that want to be involved in the political process on whatever particular topic they are passionate about comes up, that you gain a really well-rounded knowledge of whatever that thing is by participating in the meetings, reading the minutes, reading the agenda, asking questions, having coffee. That's probably the best way to get things done. I have not found that the anger, the frustration really gets folks very far in that process. So that's what I've learned from the school board.
So that in politics, there's so many issues one could focus on. Do you have any ideas about how does one choose?
You know, Jason, I wish I had a great answer for you. Personally, I have found that picking a couple particular issues that are important to you, that you are knowledgeable about, that you have a story around, that's probably a great path. Really moving down one particular issue that you can speak well to. Otherwise, it's easy to get distracted. And there are plenty of people that care about all the issues. So, everything will get attention. But I've chosen to choose a couple topics that really matter to me. And I try to stick to those as best I can. I don't know. Have you had better experience? I'd take any advice at this point.
Your advice sounds very good.
Thanks. We'll just keep trying it. I don't know.
When I asked your thoughts on cooling the current political climate, you said it's important to remember that taking care of one another starts with being kind.
Yes.
One seemingly small act at a time.
Yep.
Can you say any more about that?
I think that all of the issues that get people riled up are human issues. And I think at the core, everyone is doing their best. Whether it's political, whether it's healthcare, whatever your professional realm is, everyone is doing their best, and everyone is just a human who's trying to support others. And if we can do our work in a human-centered way, we are going to be far better off in the end. Like I said at the beginning of our conversation today, if we can start with a story, how is this thing impacting a person? Then we're going to have a far better outcome by supporting one another and using person-centered approaches. It's not always easy.
You were talking about dignity earlier, like giving each other dignity in politics. So, I mean, that sounds like that could be extremely healing.
Mm-hmm. I think you're right. If we can do things with a human-centered approach, we'll all get much further.
Speaking of dignity, another thing I want to ask about is your board member at the Center for Active Generations. For people not from Sioux Falls, or even people from Sioux Falls, what is that?
Yeah, we really work hard at Active Generations to support people, all adults, experiencing a hope to connect with others, right? To be part of a community. And so the members of Active Generation, they've got all kinds of different activities going on. We've got a billiards team, there's a library, there's folks helping in our catering team. We've got education that goes on there, all kinds of things, really an opportunity for people to find their community. And so being on the board of directors has been an absolute joy. I think I've been on the board for 3 years now. The organization is led by Betsy Schuster. She does a fantastic job. I was initially connected with Active Generations because both of my grandparents were members there. And my grandma had Alzheimer's disease, and she attended Daybreak, which is the adult day program for people experiencing dementia. And so she went there every day. They took fantastic care of her. And then I never expect that I'd be using that same service for my mom, who was only 65 years old when she was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. But we were. And so I was reconnected with Active Generations when my mom was invited in as a volunteer to receive care and to have a safe place to be while I was at work. My mom was unwilling to share her diagnosis with anyone. And so it was Daybreak that brought up the opportunity for her to be a volunteer in their center, and then she could remain there and receive meals and be safe. And so that's what led me to being on the board of directors of Active Generation. So I have a very soft place in my heart for that organization and the work that they do. It's been a joy being on the board.
So talk about giving dignity. They let your mom come in as a volunteer.
They did. They even gave her a little name badge, and she got to hang up her coat with all the staff. And it was a really important day for her. She passed out cookies. She chatted with everyone. And it was very funny on the drive home. She says to me, "Boy, this place is really great for elderly people." I had to chuckle because she was volunteering there. She was just helping the other old people out with their snacks. And it was a really important day for her to gain not only safety, but also dignity.
Last thing before the final question. What made you excited to apply for a TEDx talk?
Well, it was on the bucket list, and I kind of didn't ever think it would really happen. And then the opportunity arose. And I thought, I have a story to tell. And the real intent there was to share my mom's message with the world, particularly around we can be caregivers with the intent to give dignity, with the intent to find joy. And we don't have to trudge through it every day. It's a matter of changing perspective. And that's not always easy. I don't want to imply that it was easy by any means, but using that filter of giving dignity and creating joy, boy, what a change in perspective. I am healthier for it, though it was a really hard experience. And now I care for my dad, and we are having a wonderful time connecting and being closer than we ever have been. It's a real gift.
That's an interesting reflection. You said you are healthier for it. You are healthier for it. So it didn't only benefit your mom or your dad. It benefited them enormously, of course, but you're also healthier. How has this perspective contributed to your own health as a caregiver?
Yeah. Well, we have public health data that tells us very clearly that caregivers are impacted by caregiving in their mental health. We know that people are experiencing higher anxiety and higher depression rates from being a caregiver. And I think a shift in perspective, in addition to community resources, funding, and respite support, we can become stronger, more resilient people through that experience. And in the past, it's been a very lonely journey. And there were certainly lonely moments while caring for my mom. But I think changing the perspective and really looking for those moments of joy does help us become healthier, more resilient people.
It's so important. It's so important. I applaud you. My last question, and I ask all my guests this: what does doing your imperfect best mean to you?
Ooh. What does doing my imperfect best mean to me?
Do you want me to say what it means to me first?
I would love to hear that.
So, doing my imperfect best means that I have a vision of the best I want to create in my own life, and that I want to offer the people around me, and I go for that. But then mistakes often come up, obstacles or unpredictabilities often come up, and instead of using that stuff as reasons to just say, oh, it's not worth it, I try to learn from all that stuff and move once again towards the best I envision.
That's helpful, and I'm going to take that with me. I think that my imperfect best, as I grow older, is really understanding how boundaries look for me. I am as my husband calls me, a joiner, and I will join all the things. I will sign up for the club. I will take on the task. I will,
Lisa, somehow that doesn't surprise me.
Right? I do like to have a full calendar, but I am learning as I get older that I am happier when I give myself a little space and a little grace. And I'm not good at it yet, but I am learning how to say, I have a full plate right now. I can't take that on right now. And that is taking a lot of practice. That's sitting in the discomfort of that and feeling like I need to be the yes person for everything. And so I would say my imperfect best is to move forward with continuing to set boundaries, both with people and tasks and my calendar, and really making the time to just lay in the hammock with my husband or play with my kids or sit in the garden. And I haven't previously made time for those things in the past. And so it's a little uncomfortable to start setting those boundaries. But I think that in the next decade, if you talk to me in 10 years, I think I can try to master that in 10 years. We'll see. We'll have to check back in with each other.
That's wonderful. So on your birthday in 10 years, maybe we'll have to do a follow-up podcast.
Okay, maybe earlier. We'll set a faster timeline.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Lisa, for all you do professionally. You are such an advocate for dignity. All the things you do to enhance your community, for being a mom, for being a caregiver. Thank you for being you. And would you please stay on? I'm going to end this, but please stay on. It just takes a minute for everything to upload, okay?
Sounds good. Thanks, Jason.
Thank you all for tuning in. And isn't Lisa amazing? She has just wonderful stories and wonderful perspectives, and I hope this gets you thinking of ways to enhance your own life, your own journey, but also your own stories and your own perspectives. That it's so exciting to know ourselves and know what we really believe, and I hope you think about that more, and I should too. And remember, as always, you are the best and only you in the world. Thanks so much for being you. Until next time, this is Awkwardly Awesome Podcast. I'm Jason Freeman, and I have a glorious speech impediment. Talk to you later.